Open Windows Podcasts. A venture of HitTheRoad Cultural Journeys. A journey in time to music and the arts for your enjoyment and enrichment. Presented by Orhan Ahıskal, DMA, solo violinist and former professor of violin and chamber music. Hi everybody, I am very excited today. I am with a very dear friend of mine, Veronika Versteeg, a master violin maker, and we are visiting her in their workshop with her husband Arjan, and I will introduce her to you and we will talk about violin making today. Veronika, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
So, we are about 25 kilometers from Munich in the south, in the beautiful Bavarian countryside, and in this beautiful little violin workshop, and we will talk about Veronika's new violin that I see here. It's becoming a violin now. Veronika, a little bit about you. So tell us where you learned how to make the violins, and you are a master violin maker. That means you have passed many exams. Can you tell us about that?
Actually, I'm not a master, but I'm a journeyman in the
journeyman.
Yes,
Okay.
It is called journeyman because first I studied in Mittenwald in the violin building school, and there you stay there 3.5 years. In this time you are ein Lehrling. I don't know exactly the
so
English
you're
word.
It's smaller level maker. Okay.
Yeah. Then and you finish with an exam that is called the Gesellenprüfung. This is an exam of apprenticeship, and then you are a journeyman. And this is a tradition that you are supposed to, in this time, before you get a master, to travel.
It's a title. This is not a master's degree. This is actually a title of you're a master violin maker.
No.
So the title is master violin maker. So I'm just making sure that people understand. It's not like a master's degree. It's a skill exam, becoming a master. So from journeyman to master, what do you have to do?
There you need to work several years with other masters, and you need some experience. And the tradition is that you work in several shops to learn
different workshops.
Yes.
Okay.
Because after you studied it, you really have to learn how it works in the practice. And in the real world.
How long do you have now to become a master? Or
I think it's something like 2 years
left.
So yeah,
okay.
No, not for me. You are supposed to work 2 years as a journeyman.
So you will do apprenticeship with some master maker or something like that. Okay.
And there you learn specific things that only are known in this workshop, and learn really
trade secrets.
Yes, also.
Okay.
Yeah, some things that you don't learn in school. There you learn really only the very important Grundlagen, the basics.
Foundations.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really good foundation what you learn in Mittenwald, but afterwards it's important to go into different workshops to be perfect in some kind of
in a particular style, or in a particular school of violin making.
And this is really important. Then you are supposed, if you want, you can make a master. This is something.
It's an optional thing.
Yes.
You don't have to. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it exists only in Germany, or maybe also in Switzerland and Austria. But then you have a degree where you can teach others in violin making.
When you become a master, you qualify to teach others, obviously.
Yeah. But now in the new time, you can also teach some without being master in violin building. But if you are any other, if you do another job, it is still important to have the Meister to.
Like, how does it affect your business? Maybe like you can write Geigenbaumeisterin, and then does the price of the instrument change, or people will come to you more as apprentices?
It is.
Or it's just
no, from
it's an ego stroke.
Yeah.
Okay, I am a Meister.
Yeah. And the Meisters are organized in a group in Germany. The Geigenbaumeister group.
It's like a guild.
Yeah, it is a guild.
Association.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it is an association, which is a guild, I guess.
So I see you're making a new violin, and my people, the people who do these cultural travelers, may not know anything about violin making. So let's talk about step by step what you do. Like you choose the wood.
Yes.
What are the things, important points about the wood? Like how old is it supposed to be, and what kind of trees? The
wood is actually, in this case, from Mittenwald spruce. Yes.
Spruce?
Yes, that's the table, the
front panel.
Yeah, and this is a wood which grows also in Mittenwald in the mountains. It's not the spruce which grows in the area we live, but it has to be a mountain spruce.
So it has to be higher altitudes, yeah?
Because then the rings, tree rings, will be very narrow, because in the height there is the climate very extreme, and it is colder.
So that affects the trees, that trees are stronger? Or?
Yeah, and there's not much humid and not much earth on the rocks. So they really grow from very little food. They only have.
So the roots are very small, or
no? They grow very slowly. That's
I see. They grow the trees grow very slowly.
Yeah, because in the wood you can see in what you buy.
So
in
therefore
IKEA.
the rings are very narrow, very little. That makes. How does that affect the instrument? Yeah,
that is much more stable.
Much more stable than trees in lower planes.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, if you go to IKEA or something like, spruce is much wider. The rings are much wider. Wider, and it's not the good violin building spruce.
So the front panel is from spruce, and the rest?
The rest is the ribs and the back. They are in this case from maple. Also
ahorn.
Ahorn.
Maple.
Yeah, maple.
Maple. Okay. Maple, like the syrup.
Yeah, but it's also there are different types of maple. This is Bergahorn, mountain maple.
Mountain maple. Again, it has to be higher altitudes.
Yeah, and the leaves are a little bit different. You can see a difference. They are spitzer. They are, what is spitzer?
Pointier.
Pointy. Yes. Maple makes very beautiful waves in the view.
Designs,
It has a very beautiful design.
So it's a single piece of wood, not. It does have a beautiful pattern.
Yeah. It is also.
Can you knock on the instrument? We are looking at a wooden box. Okay, it has no varnish. It does look like a violin already. It has both. The box is complete with the F holes and purflings, but there's no varnish on it, and there's no neck. There's nothing else. May I?
Yeah.
So different places on the instrument. This is the top, a deeper sound maybe, and on the edges, it's a smaller sound.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have selected. This is up to you, like which pieces of wood to use. You decide yourself.
Yes.
Like the front panel will be spruce, and the back will be a Bergahorn.
No, this is what I make. What is also traditional that you name. The tradition is to take spruce for the table and maple, or there are other options. Yes.
This mountain maple is the best possibility for the back or for the whole instrument?
No, only for the back and the ribs and the scroll. The neck.
The neck
is the same wood like the back and the ribs.
It has the same pattern, so that's so it's a more visual thing than sound, obviously.
Yeah.
Is it harder than the spruce?
Yeah, it has to be harder because there's a lot of tension on the, and if this is a very soft wood, it will, the neck angel will come.
Neck will break or bend forward or something. Okay, in time.
I saw violins where the neck came forward and then it is nearly impossible to play.
Yeah. Forward. Okay.
Yeah, but therefore we have this the grip.
Fingerboard.
The fingerboard is from ebony, and ebony is really the hardest wood that we can get.
Because when we play, okay, as a player, when you keep your fingers and keep putting them on the fingerboard, eventually you create, in the same places you keep always hitting, become slightly undulated and has to be again flattened, the fingerboard. So it has to be the hardest wood possible, really, in that way.
Yeah.
So ebony, and ebony is very dark brown or black colored.
In times where they had no ebony, they used another hard wood, but this ebony has the advantage, Vorteil, that has very little pores.
Okay, it's not porous, so it doesn't have holes on it.
Yeah, it has no, and then it's very good feeling to play on it.
It's easier to move on that kind of thing.
Otherwise you're stuck with this string in the pore.
You would hate to do that, I tell you. Okay, so you have chosen the wood. I'm sure people will be wondering, how long it takes to make a violin. If you do, is it per how many hours or weeks would you say?
I started, sometimes you need to, for drying, waiting until something dries, but if you count the lessons, the hours, you get something like maybe 180 hours, until it really is, can play. Yeah. Then you still can make a lot to make it perfect.
To improve it.
Because then it still gets interesting to search for the
location of the bridge, or
yes, of course. And the brights and the thickness of the bridge. There you can make a lot of difference in the sound, or the pressure of the sound post and the exact location of the sound post. And the
so they don't teach you these things at school, do they? Or?
No, not really.
No.
They say it has to stand here.
Okay, so there is a specific location. Should be under in the box or someplace. Okay.
No, but you don't have the feeling in this time yet, how it has to feel like. Something it is...
That looks beautiful. By the way, I played on a violin by Veronika this last February. I played the Brahms violin concerto. Yes. And the orchestra thought my own violin, also a German violin, didn't sound too loud or loud enough. So after trying 4 or 5 other instruments, I decided to play on an instrument by Veronika, a beautiful new violin. And it really was joyful, very fun, very much fun to play. And I think it got very good result and everybody really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So this is a new violin being made, is born. Let's say it's born.
Yes.
So you have chosen the wood, and what do you do next?
The next is then I had this big wood. It was a big wood. Okay,
big piece of wood.
Yeah.
And how old does this wood have to be? I know it has to be old.
It doesn't have to be too old. I learned at school still that it has to be several decades of years. More than 30 years would be good.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, or minimum 10 years. Ion does this research on dendrochronology. There you can see in which year the wood was cut and in which year you see
instrument was made.
Yeah, because in some Stradivarius there is the date of the year when he built the violin. And in some violins, or in many violins, there are only maybe 5 years difference, and that's the proof that he used the very fresh wood, and he's like the star of all violin builders.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. And it is important that the wood is cut in the winter, of course, because then all the water goes in the ground. And I don't know, there's also a big Wissenschaft. What is this?
Wissenschaft is science.
Big science.
Well, yeah.
Wait.
Talk.
Clara, ich rufe dich gleich zurück.
Okay.
I will call her back. There's a big science about when to cut the wood, in which state
The
of
wood for instrument making.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a science to it.
yeah, and some go from make it dependent from the moon and from the sign of the stars. This is like
Okay.
a big tradition from the since
Is
ever.
is it really scientific, or does it go into little like astrology, little bit?
No, it's not a. No, I mean,
You can call it
yeah,
scientific.
science is not the real word. Then it's a tradition because
Tradition,
there
okay.
there's craftsman traditions, and they said in Mittenwald they said you cut the wood for violins in this decade. This is the new moon after in the new year. The first new moon in the new year.
I see. So
Then
it's
is
very specific.
Yeah. So this
You
is
cut it if you missed it a week like that, or it's not, the moon is not new anymore, then it's useless, it's pointless. It sounds
Yeah,
like that.
because it's not practical. Because if the snow is too high in this, then it's not possible to cut it. Because you otherwise it has to be also possible to go there, because if there is the weather too dangerous, and it's really dangerous to cut the wood in Mittenwald, because it's really
mountains are very high and
Yes.
steep.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not like
This is
you
really
just walk onto a nice field
No.
and cut a tree. It's not
No.
nothing like that.
no,
Okay.
that's not. It's really dangerous job for this. And in the ancient
So the
times, it
violin
wasn't
makers
even-
are not the ones who cut the trees then?
No.
No. they bring somebody who knows,
Yeah.
a climber, or it's like a mountain person. And,
Yeah.
Okay, so the time of the when you cut the tree is very important. It has to be in the winter sometime, and according to some other specific. Okay.
But I cannot prove it if I buy now the wood. But I trust that it's cut in the winter, because then it will be more stable. And
Because
and
if the wood is fresh, or there's too much water in it still, then it warps more easily.
Yes,
It
yes.
loses its shape. And
Yes.
that even happens in cheap furniture.
yeah, that's the same.
So the wood is, we believe, at least 10 years old, maybe even ideally like 20 or 30 years old, but doesn't have to be, you're saying.
Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
Then what?
So I think this wood could be from Markwaldstein. That is really close to Mittenwald. It's also the same position in the mountains in the Bavarian Alps. And there I know someone who's a förster. He works in the mountain, and he cut it really on this perfect time. And it's really a really good wood. It's very light and nice to work with.
Okay.
I like it very much.
Oh, great. So, I
Also,
understand.
the violin you played is from this wood.
I see.
I like it very much.
It's the same tree? Is
Yes,
it?
it's the same tree. I bought this, now it's already 15 years ago. So
Okay.
now it's older already, but then it was still, I think, 5 years older. Now it's
So
20
it's almost
years old.
20 years
yeah.
old.
No, yes, I'm...
Like from a piece of wood like that, how many instruments can you cut? I mean, violins, obviously. Huh?
Yes, many.
Many?
Yes, it's enough for one life.
Really?
From
Okay.
one tree.
And now
What
it's
is
tree,
it?
but how big is the piece of wood that you had bought?
No, he cut it already in good pieces for violin building.
Okay.
So I have maybe 30 violins or something like this. Now it gets less. I need to go there.
I see,
again.
you need new wood now. Okay,
Yes.
great. So it's, by the way, the instrument is like standing upright now on the table here. So
Yes,
it's really nicely balanced. It rocks to the sides because the bow of the instrument, so the bottom part of the instrument, it's like a rocking chair when you push it. Okay, so go ahead. Then what happens? Then you choose. Okay, here's my question. Like in Mittenwald, or there are different schools of violin making. So it's like Cremona or Brescia and other places in Middelkoor in France. and in Germany.
Yes.
So they have different, was it the maker? Like this is like a Klotz, or this is like a Stradivari or Guarneri.
Yeah.
So how do you decide? Is it something you decide, or you like a specific pattern? You use that always?
Yes, I have one instrument that is a Guadagnini. I don't have it, but I could work with it a lot, and I studied it really good, and I tried to understand the architecture and the idea in this instrument, and I like it very much, and it sounds great. It's a very good violin, and I make not a real copy, but I use it as a idea, a model. It's my model, yes.
So it's not an exact replica you're making, but you use it as a guideline, maybe.
Yeah.
Guadagnini, of course, a famous maker.
And what we learned in Mittenwald was not any. We didn't make the typical models or from German violins, but we made the Italian models because they are a little bit more perfect. They are more logical in their architecture, because most of the German old German makers, like Steiner, he learned also in Italy.
In Italy, Well, violin was born in Italy. We know in the early 16th century, the earliest paintings of violins we find in northern Italy in churches.
Yes.
I'm actually writing a book about that, but
wow.
Yes. It's going to be a part of my book, hopefully. But I have worked on this section already. It's really interesting. So we know that there are violins, or an instrument that we can call violin by 1520s, 30s already, and it evolved from different instruments. We know that. Certainly. In northern Italy, well, it's not sure if it's Cremona or Brescia. It could be either, or simultaneously at the same time. Yeah. And then German makers who went to Italy, like Steiner, studied there, and then brought that craft into Germany, to the northern part of the Alps.
And so did also Matthias Klotz, who brought the violin building tradition to Mittenwald.
To Mittenwald. Yeah. We will talk about Mittenwald, maybe another talk, okay? Yes. So, you're making, at the school they teach you different, maybe more Italian violin models. So, Guadagnini is certainly an Italian one.
Yeah, it is.
So this is modeled on a Guadagnini instrument.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a Gips form.
It's like a blueprint, is it?
Yeah, it's a good.
It's like a building's blueprint.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, I have also my own handwriting that you can see on what I do. It's like writing or a language. So everybody has a own signature. Yes. And of course, I'm not Italian, that everybody can hear in my language also. But
so that's the other thing also. Like when I know there are specialists who specialize on a certain period or certain land, and they can actually certify instruments. Yes. And when they look at it, let's say there is no label in the instrument, but they can, by looking at it, say, oh, this is certainly 19th century German, or certainly Klotz, or certainly a French instrument from the Mirecourt school. Or, so in that way, your instruments are also very personal. So when people who know your work look at it, they can say this is this is by Veronika.
I guess Versteeg. Yes.
Eventually.
Of course, no. I think it is not difficult. If you know me or other works from me, it is possible to see the connection between the instruments. Also with other Italian old and ancient makers, they have, every violin is different, but still you can see the handwriting, you can see the personality of the maker. Yes, of course. And that's what they do, I think.
Okay, let's explain it to our listeners. It's because violins are not the cheap violins, but professional violins are all handmade. And as we said, there are different violin making centers throughout history. They all have different characteristics. The centers have, like schools of making, have characteristics, but also the people who made instruments have personal things, and that's their thing. So every violin is different. That's one thing. They're like people. They all look very similar, but they are very different. Their measurements are again slightly different. There's an obvious shape. It's like looking at a human. We have a head and arms and legs, and we look like probably to some other species we might look all the same. But so just like that with the instruments, they all look the same, but every one of them is different.
You say
that
it
depends
very good.
on the
You explain it very good.
Thank you. So because they all have, we can say that this is a violin because it has a certain shape. We can also tell that when it's slightly larger, or this is a viola, or it's a smaller viola, or these we can easily tell. And then the smaller details come into question, like the positioning of the F holes, the bounce, or everything. Really, there is so much detail that could be different, and these are the things that determine who made the instruments. This is certainly by somebody. And that is something that one learns throughout their life, basically. Because I cannot tell. I mean, I can say, this sounds or looks like an instrument that I played before. Like I played on Claude's instrument, so I can say this looks like a southern German instrument. That's as close as I can get. Or I can say this looks Italian. But that's about it. One has to have a lot of interest and spend time and look at very different examples of these instruments, like famous ones by Stradivari that have names. So you look at catalogs and all that. Eventually you have a big database, let's call it. Then you can say, well, this looks like one of these instruments, so it must be Italian, or it could be by Stradivari, or it could be copied, of course. Okay, sorry, I keep jumping in, but it's very interesting. So, so you've decided on the model and all that, and what happens then? You start carving, you start shaping the wood.
In the beginning, I start with the ribs.
I see. The first thing you do is the ribs.
But I had to cut the ribs out of the big wood because I like the ribs to be out the same piece of wood like the back, because this is really beautiful.
It's a visual thing. It certainly does. It does look very beautiful.
But so it was it took me, I think, 3 hours to cut this big piece of wood. It was because I needed to get enough wood from
the whole panel.
For the whole panel.
Back.
But it was enough wood for everything in the end. And then I have like small slices of wood. I have to make them very thin, to 1.3 millimeters, 1.2, and then I can shape them with hot steel.
So you have these flat slices of wood, let's call, like 1.3 millimeters thick or thin, and then you put it into some kind of a mold, and that's hot.
It's an Biegeeisen. I think there is.
It's like an iron.
It's an iron, yes.
Okay.
Which is where you press the wood on it. During the pressure, it can shape. Yes.
Okay. The ribs. We're saying ribs. It is like when you look at a string instrument. You have the front. You see the F holes, and you have the back, and in between, it's like the sides. We call those ribs, and those are the thin sheets of wood. And you have to shape them like this. Like a human body, basically, okay? Like shoulders, and then the waist, and then the, what is this? The butt.
That's something in this, yes, it is. And this makes design of the whole violin.
So you started with the ribs, and then what happens?
After I made this rib, it's called Zagenkranz in mold. Yes. Okay.
I think so. Mold.
After I made the mold, I can put the
I see the mold, the shape of the thing. Mold.
The mold. Yes. I can put the piece of spruce and the piece of maple on it and make the outline on this new wood. Then I start first just with a saw and then with different tools
How many
Yeah.
tools do you have here? Okay.
Okay.
In a violin workshop, it is. I mean, it is like a wood workshop, but there is obviously you do so much small detail work, and you have smaller other carving instruments. There's dozens of carving tools I see here. Okay, you put the shape basically.
Yeah.
You trace it out, and then you have a violin shape, and then you start cutting it with the saw.
Actually, it is this very similar tools like Schreiner has. It's a desk carpenter. And the scroll is it's the tools that a bildhauer needs. A bildhauer is also a
The sculptor?
Yes, sculpture needs.
Okay.
This is a sculpture work, the scroll is a sculpture work, and this is a desk maker.
Scroll is not part of the violin's body, and because at the end of the violin there's a neck, and then there is what we call the scroll, where these strings go into this box, where there's 4 pegs. And then the strings are tied into these pegs basically, and they're all different. Of course, every maker is different. In some instrument you will find this like a lion's head or something like that, some rare things like that. Yeah, but that's a scroll. So that is exactly, that's more sculpture work than like making the body of the violin.
Yes. And there was a time where other people made the scroll and other people made the rest of the violin.
Because scroll is a different skill, obviously. Yeah. It is something. I mean, it's like furniture making. You do these fine legs of the tables, or coffee tables, and something like that. Okay.
And there was also this time where they made lions or angels instead of a scroll, and this was a nice tradition also, but.
Because it has no effect on the sound of the instrument, it just looks different.
Yeah, they are really beautiful things that we can still see in museums.
In the museums, yeah?
Yeah.
So now you have shaped and cut the front and back panels. Yeah. And then you start shaping because they're not flat.
Yeah. First with these big knives that you cut, where you cut the wood off, but then I use something like this. What is this called?
That's a plane.
Are you sure? Maybe I show you another one.
Okay.
How it is called. This one.
What are they called?
Hobel. Hobel.
Hobel. Plane, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a plane, because I'm not make it plain with the plane, but still it is a.
Yeah, they're called planes. So with a plane, you carve the instrument.
Yeah.
And obviously you have different thicknesses of these planes, because the finer detail you have to do, the smaller the plane is. Yeah. So the shape of the front and back panels, these curves, the bouts, they come out. Because like in some German violins, that's really high. Yeah, I remember.
It's true. That's a
like
typical
Steiner is quite high, isn't it? And that sometimes that affects the sound. I remember not positively in a way.
The copy of Steiner are very high, very often.
Okay.
But I was in a very nice exhibition of Steiner violins, and I found them different than I expected it, because he made really good. You could see the Italian idea, and this was not. It was maybe a little bit higher, but other German instruments which took Steiner as their model, they made really high. I don't know.
They exaggerated.
Yeah,
okay.
They exaggerated. That's typical for copying, that you exaggerate to make it really good.
I see. So I can improve it by overdoing it. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So why is it not flat, like in the guitar? It's a flat front and back, but on string instruments, the front and back have this slanting or the curving body.
But I think it developed this way because it is more stable, because this curve is really stable.
Because once the body of the instrument is finished, we're going to put a bridge on it, and then put 4 metal strings, and then those strings will put a lot of pressure on the body of the instrument. So it is, because it's like a bridge, it's curved, it has more support against the bridge. Is that the idea?
Yes, I think it is. And there are violins which are 500 years nearly.
Amantis are like
Yeah,
500 years
and they are
now.
still in condition. They, of course, they were repaired, but they can endure the time. And in the guitars, I think they don't stand.
So the
so
guitars
long.
don't last very long.
No, not so
okay.
long, not so hundreds of years. I think because it's not so stable if it is plain. So of
So
course,
at some point it starts breaking, basically.
Yeah,
and,
it's the same. It's a construction of a bridge. This works like a bridge, and if you make a bridge very flat, it will.
The violin's front panel and the back are built like a bridge. So, but old bridges, like stone bridges, where you have to support the weight of the bridge by placing the stones in such a way that they're not flat.
Yeah.
There's always an arch.
Yeah.
So it's like that. Okay. So
And
it's a construction thing. It's like an architectural thing.
It is.
Actually.
And if you look in the churches of this time or in city architecture of bridges or other big buildings, they have the same idea behind it.
So it's a very functional thing rather than it looks more beautiful like that kind of. Okay.
Yes, and of course they were really crazy about the golden Schnitz, the
golden ratio.
Yes.
Okay, so the violin's structure also fits into the golden ratio.
Also, if you know how to do it, it's very easy to construct this only with. You need a circle because everything is here with proportions. For example, this hole is 1/20th of this length. This is one example. And the F holes, they developed from a different shape, but it is a good shape. It's also a very practical shape because rounding, it doesn't give, the wood won't get scratches. And also this inlay, which we make in the
edges,
side, yes. It is this developed because it makes the wood stable so that they don't get scratches on the
edges.
Yes, and also here is a typical place where you would get scratches because the wood works from dryness or heat. It will shrink or expand, and then it would get scratches.
You mean so it's not the wood, but the varnish will get scratches.
No, the wood, old violins have this very often.
Cracks.
Cracks, yeah.
Okay.
It's against the cracks. And
okay, so it actually holds because it's against the lines of the wood. The purfling actually holds the lines so that with the expansion and contraction of the wood, with heat and humidity and cold, it still holds the wood together so that it doesn't crack because it can easily crack. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Good. Sorry,
That's
I
fine.
am not used to speak so much in English about violins.
It's not a problem.
But in the back it is more for because it looks very beautiful. There, just marble is not doesn't get cracked so easily.
So spruce does, but maple doesn't easily. Okay.
Yeah. And then it is already. Then I had to put the F holes in. In this moment, I put the neck in the body.
Okay. And you will end up nailing it there, yeah?
Yes, in really ancient times it was used to nail it.
And then they glued it. And how do you fix it there?
Now I make it's called Schwalbenschwanz because this I can
it's an
put
interlocking mechanism,
yeah,
is it?
Yeah, I'm not far yet, but I will. It will be possible to put it in, and then it stucks.
Okay.
But
the neck will go into the upper part of the instrument, and you have already created like a place within the wood, and it kind of gets more and more narrow.
Yes.
And so the fitting in piece part of the neck, if it's too tight, not too small, it will actually lock in by itself. Okay.
Yeah. And what is also important is, and really traditional, is the glue, which is from bones.
Bones.
Yes, it's gelatine.
What kind of animal? Human bones?
No, I think it's from cows.
Cows.
Cow bones.
Okay.
That's
So I don't have to look under these wooden boards on the floor to see if there are any dead bodies.
No. But we
Okay,
have
so
also
cow
fish,
bones.
fish glue. We have also
Fish bones.
Yes.
So how do
different.
they actually like boil the bones to get the glue, or
Yeah,
do they
how-
actually
how- yeah,
powder
how-
it, like crush them?
Yeah, I don't know. No,
I see.
it's gelatine. How do you produce?
Gelatin.
Yeah, I don't know how you produce
I
gelatine.
don't know either. Yeah.
I think you have to cook it, and then there will.
So it becomes
will-
gelatinous
yeah,
like that.
that's it.
That's it. That's actually strong enough to glue these things.
Yes. You could also take Gummibärchen. Haribos.
Gummy bears. Okay. Because they
same.
have gelatin in them. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing. Maybe a little bit sugar, no.
Yeah,
Still,
sugar,
but-
of course, sugar, but
Yeah. But I know somebody who glued his violin with.
gummy bears. That's funny.
Yes.
This smells
Yeah.
great too. So it smells nice too.
Yeah. No, but I think I don't know how long it lasts. But we use this glue because it is not visible afterwards, and it is possible to open it again.
How do you release this kind of glue?
Released
Gelatinous?
by
Like heat it up, or
yes, and or with water, but if with pressure, it will just go off.
give in. Okay.
Give in, yes.
And all these parts you also glue with the same material.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
That's
this is okay. Let's explain a little bit. So when you're gluing an instrument like that, if you use something that's too strong,
Yes.
let's say, and then the instrument has some kind of damage at some point, it
Yeah.
got cracked, it had an accident,
Yeah.
then when you have to open let's say you have to open the top panel, you have to remove it, and then when you're doing it, you would probably damage the whole wood.
Yeah, and it's this
And you don't want that.
catastrophe.
Yeah,
Yes,
and it's dead. It's
Yeah.
you really you would have so much to fix.
Yeah.
So, but you have some kind of glue that's strong enough, but that can also resolve under certain circumstances,
Yeah.
so that you
Yeah.
can open the instrument without damaging the wood itself.
Yeah,
That's the idea.
Yes, and it's a really great technique.
Invention, yeah, great.
And they use it also for books.
Bookbinding.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
also a book. The same glue which is used for bookmaking.
Binding.
Binding, yes.
Okay. And is it the same all the way from the 15th, 16th century?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe
They-
before any other kind of glue was known, they were using this.
Yes.
I know they used in architecture eggs,
It's
like
true.
Ottoman architecture.
Yeah.
They used eggs,
Casein.
goose eggs. I remember.
Yeah.
Or maybe even seagulls
Yeah.
or something.
But I don't know.
Natural
It was
and
never
strong.
used. Yeah, and invisible.
That's the other thing,
Yeah.
because it's not like it doesn't leave any kind of residue. You just don't
Yeah.
see it.
It's not something between the two pieces of wood, but it goes into the pores of the wood and it's
Into
stuck
the pores,
in the-
so
yes,
it's like the little, very tiny little holes in the
Yeah.
wood. The glue is absorbed,
Yeah.
but it can
Yeah.
still hold them together.
Yes, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah. Well, certainly
Good
no
stuff.
violin under whatever pressure I put on it never came apart. So it's it
Yeah.
means it does work.
Yeah. Only if it falls down, then it should go open, because it's better that the glued pieces go open than the wood
Breaking.
breaks. So this is
Exactly.
another advantage.
Certainly. Wow, very clever.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have now these. You're going to put the neck in. But carving the front and back panels, that takes a lot of time, obviously, because you have a small plane.
Yes.
Do you have to? Let's say the front panel is a piece of flat wood.
Yeah.
And then, but there's a slanting, let's say, bridge on it, so it's not flat exactly. Is the width or the depth of this wood, is it the same all around, or is like on the top is thicker, or in other places it's thinner?
Yeah, and it has to be here a little bit thicker where the...
In the center.
Yeah, the center, because also where the
bridge will sit on.
This bridge and the sound post, because this is a really it's a place which has to endure a lot.
Plus, like when we play them, we put a lot of pressure on it.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yes, it is really.
Yeah, we really press really at times.
But it's amazing how thin in these areas.
In the sides.
In the sides, violins sometimes are. I don't make it too thin.
Violin is actually an acoustical box. It's like an amplifier. Yeah, whatever sound that you're producing, the box has to amplify it. We have no electric means or electronics, any support. So this upper panel or the both panels have to resonate when we're making the sound. So the thinner the wood, the more resonance, obviously. But at the same time, it cannot be too thin.
And then it will be not stable enough.
Yeah, then it will break at some point. It won't last very long because.
Yeah, and the bridge will
fall
the
in.
pressure make it fall. But now this one I think is 3 millimeters in the bridge, 2.5
in the lower parts. Okay.
A bit thinner, but this will endure.
It will be a strong instrument.
It will be strong enough because here is some connection which must be strong, but here it has to vibrate because
so the center line, because when we say people don't see, so the center line from top to bottom is thicker because the connection is important, but then toward the sides, towards the bouts, it is less, it's thinner, and they resonate more.
But I have the idea that some of the old instruments which are very thin, they were made thinner. Maybe when they were 100 years old or something like this.
So they made them thinner much later?
Yes.
I see. Why is that?
Because they thought it will sound
Improve
better.
I see. So they have to destroy the instruments basically.
Yeah. Yes, it was not good for them, and also it was a mode. It was something.
It's a mode. Yeah, it's a fashion.
Yeah, it was a fashion. Our intention is to get what is original, to let everything intact what is original. Do you understand? No, this is not.
The idea, because the moment when you modify anything that's old, then it loses its value.
Yes.
It's not original anymore.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that you have to do that because it's been damaged and you have to fix it. But if it's not damaged and it's functioning, then you are supposed to keep it the way it is.
Yes. But there was one big fashion, and this was also maybe a good idea. Most of the old instruments are not original anymore in the angle of the neck.
That I know. I will explain that maybe, because from the Baroque period, from like 1760s until 1830s, violins went through a whole bunch of changes. But that was mostly the neck. That's why, like my instrument, the neck. Can I hold this? Like the scroll is original, but then it was cut here. Yeah, all earlier instruments from the bottom of the scroll, and the neck was replaced. Well, because it was originally like 90 degree coming out of the instrument, thicker and shorter. Yes. But the goal was that with the new concert halls and all that, the instruments had to be louder. Yeah. So by slanting the neck backwards slightly, that can create more pressure on the strings, and you also started using more steel strings. Yeah. So therefore you would have more projection.
That's it. Yes.
Then what happens? When you're going to start putting the varnish on?
Yes, I will do this. I hope next week.
Okay. There are two kinds of varnishes, I know, like alcohol-based or
oil-based.
Oil-based.
Yes.
And you prefer oil-based, I assume?
In the meantime. I made a lot of spiritus-based, but now since some years I changed to oil-based because it is a little bit more stable, I have the idea.
Stable in what sense?
If you hit it a little bit, it won't spring off so quickly.
I see. It won't crack easily.
Yeah. It is more like a big part of the oil-based is Leinöl. It's also you're supposed to eat it if you want.
Linseed.
Linseed oil, yeah.
Okay.
And this is really sticky, and we could cook it for hours.
You boil it for hours before you apply it to the instrument.
Yes.
And so they hardened. They harden So
Yes.
that they're not sticky anymore and all that, and then they remain.
No, but it hardens only with sun, with UV.
With light. So you are using linseed oil and you boil it for hours.
Yes, with of course with
Other material.
Yes.
Because every instrument, like when you say, again, some of them are more brown, some of them are orange brown.
Yeah.
Some even can be like reddish, you know,
Yes.
very different colors of varnish we can see on the instruments.
Yeah.
If it's oil, it's typically always linseed oil.
Yes.
And then how do you change the colors? Do you play with the color? Like,
Yes,
because
of
you
course.
like to, according to your taste, obviously.
Yes. Yes, and the taste of the clients. But in old pictures you can see cochineal, I think it's called. It was a very expensive color.
I see, it's a coloring
Yeah, it was
thing.
quite red. It used to be a fashion. The latest fashion were red violins. They were this cochineal.
It's like the film,
Yeah.
the red violin.
Yes.
But in fact, I think they used blood there.
Yeah,
that
but
was the
this
whole
is
idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
but in these old pictures you can see that it's some
Old pictures like from the early 1900s or Wow.
even earlier, from the 17th
Okay.
century.
paintings?
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
but the color get less red, of course,
In time.
because it was used a lot in the light, and it's not anymore. Most of the varnish vanished over the hundreds of years, so most of the expensive violins now have this golden ground, what you still see.
Uh-huh. But they actually used to be more red, you think?
Yes.
I see.
Yes,
Like the
that's what-
Stradivari and Amati
Yeah.
and all that? Because right now, yes, exactly, they have a brown, like furniture kind of color, but not so red.
Yeah, but
I
if
would
you
say.
really look, then you see there's not much original varnish anymore on it. It's
They
a
have
lot
all
of,
been touched up later
yeah,
on.
and you make the violin builders or anyone put varnish on it to make it new varnish, to conserve it.
Yeah, because the varnish has protecting quality.
Protected, yes.
Okay.
And so I will make more the violins like they look now, not the red.
You
as
don't
they
do
look-
the red,
no, it would look funny. Even if
might
it
look
was,
funny.
yeah, it might look funny, but it is original. But I don't. it
Because you
doesn't
will
look
not
like-
wait for a few hundred years to see what it would look like.
Yes, I could do it, but
I think some of the factory-made instruments are more red now
Yes,
sometimes.
yes.
Yeah, orange,
yeah,
red. and,
yeah. This was this aniline color, which it's not beautiful.
Okay, yeah, those instruments
Yeah.
never look beautiful.
No, this is a really cheap color which looks one-dimensional. It's not interesting. to
True,
look
it
at
doesn't have any. It does look like furniture, really. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
those apples you dip into candy.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
like
it,
this,
yeah.
and you pull it out, and those instruments
Yeah.
look like that. Okay.
Maybe the same color in it. Well, I don't know.
Well,
I hope
possible.
not.
I have no idea. Okay. So you apply, and how thick is the varnish when you apply it? How thick do you put, or does the wood absorb the varnish at all, or?
Yeah, of course
Some?
it takes a lot of. It absorbs first. The first layers, they will
Just
absorb.
disappear?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see them, but I can still see the structure of the wood.
The
But
texture of the wood
yeah.
you can still feel.
Yes.
So how many layers of varnishing do you have to do?
It's very difficult to say. I can never say it because they are so different in the how thick, how much turpentine I put in, how thick the varnish is. But I make so much varnish that I can, in the end, polish it. I will have a layer which is plain, and in this layer, I don't see the structure of the wood anymore. Sometimes I leave it that I see the structure because it's also very beautiful. Some areas to leave this the view of the structure of the wood, but not. But in the main areas, I make it really plain. And I think,
exactly. So that you can see the designs on the
Yeah,
wood.
yeah.
So the varnish should not hide that, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the varnish also works like the wood, and it will. I think it goes a little bit more into the wood with the time.
Okay, so
It's
in
not,
time it
yeah,
gets more
takes,
absorbed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it takes some time until it is really hard.
I'll tell you something funny. I had to play with so many instruments in my career. It's because I didn't have a decent instrument, so I always borrowed the instruments, and sometimes I met somebody some not so great maker. Apparently, I didn't know at the beginning. And they said, oh, I'm going to make an instrument for you. They did. And then I remember I played on this instrument very sadly. I liked it. It sounded kind of like big and more a lot of resonance, but under my ear apparently. So it didn't sound like that. And I took that instrument to a concert to do Schnittke Concerto Grosso. But that's funny. I don't know how it must have been very fresh, because when you put your finger on it, you could see your fingerprints on the varnish.
Yes.
It's so soft.
Yeah.
Yes,
it
had not dried yet enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we can actually like almost shape the varnish when maybe it was left too thick. That's the other thing. Why did it like get my fingerprint on the varnish?
Yeah, but I had this experience also with a really, really old varnish.
Ah,
yes. Sometimes
was it hot? No, so it's not about heat.
It wasn't. Yes, it is thermoplastic. It reacts on warmth.
Okay.
Yes.
So it wasn't just the instrument, but it really wasn't an instrument. It was not a great instrument. It came in this big wooden box like a coffin. I put it back in and sent it back. But unfortunately, I happened to play that concert that was quite important. And it was two violins, and the other violinist sounded like so much sound, and it looked like I was just doing pantomime.
Oh yes.
Very unfortunately.
Yes, you didn't dare to play.
No, I did. I played, but it had so little sound that compared to the other violin, it just sounded so little.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
So the video, I have the video, but I cannot say how it was a good concert, but there's so little sound. The microphone was also closer to the other violin somehow. It's a TV thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it is. So the varnish could be soft, and how long does it for the varnish to dry up? How long do you have to wait?
I will play the instrument after 2 weeks or some. I put it in the. I have a cup.
Like an oven. Oh, I see.
Ein Schrank.
Cupboard.
Yes, where I put UV lamps inside, and there it will dry for 1 or 2 weeks. But
ultraviolet, that's UV.
Yeah, ultraviolet. Yes.
Okay.
But then it will take some months until the varnish is really hard.
Dry. Okay, hardened.
Yes, but it's possible to play already and to
enjoy it.
To enjoy it, yes. Hopefully.
Okay, and it must be such a joy that you. This is a lot of work, a lot of experience, a great skill. It's not an easy thing. I mean, it sounds easy, but I know it is not. So, and then it becomes something, and it has two functions. One is like making a furniture. Oh, great! I mean, it looks beautiful, but this has something else. It becomes an instrument. It makes music in the hands of the right person. It's going to sound great, and that's another function. In that way, it's so much more than a furniture. I mean, the furniture might be skillfully made, but then this is an instrument. It has both the skill to build, and then but also play. It must be amazing feeling for you to like I did this. I made this instrument from scratch. It was a piece of tree basically.
Yes.
And then now it sounds like that. How does that feel?
How does it feel?
Yes,
I found it great to see you playing my violin. It was really, it sounds, it always needs a good player to. I couldn't play it. It's like.
But I didn't explain because Veronika plays the cello more in orchestras.
Yes.
And Aryan is a violinist.
Yeah, but I would never go on stage to play it.
No, but also even here in the workshop you can play it.
Yeah, then we played, of course. Then we are good together because he plays my violin and
you play his cello. Okay, so it's a kind of bargaining tool. Right? If you play my cello, I will play your violin.
Yes, it's good. But you are so close to what you did all for months then. I need always some time where I do something else to realize what it became.
Well, it does take time. I assume I can imagine that.
Yeah. Because I look so much in the details and have to put myself out to see the whole violin again. To
get a more objective view.
Yes, and then I like it mostly more because during I build it, I'm too critical. I need to be perfect all the time.
Okay. Oh,
But
you're a perfectionist.
yeah,
I understand. That's difficult.
Yes.
That's difficult. And then,
Yeah.
but of course, there's perfection. Is it real? Is there perfection? But you can
Yes,
see all the little things I probably wouldn't see, or I wouldn't see it as an imperfection. I might say, oh, okay, this is the way it is, because I
Yes.
don't look at the violins as physically like that. And I can't say, this looks so beautiful. But any old violin typically does look beautiful. I mean, because
Yeah,
it's
it is.
aged, and if it's in good condition, you can see the grains of the wood or the shape. Like in this one, in your violin, the front has these long lines along
Yes.
the instrument,
Yeah.
the spruce, and then the back has these horizontal lines. These could be clouds around one of those planets. In fact, you can see this little part of the tree that, there was a branch coming out, maybe.
Yeah, it's a branch.
It breaks the pattern.
Yeah.
So the front is very kind of regular looking in that way.
Yeah.
But the back is like two different colors of lines already. There's a whiter lines, and then there's thicker, darker colored lines, alternating. And then it's not symmetrical. So it's really beautiful. I mean, that's the beauty of it, and the good varnish will certainly bring these qualities out more.
Yeah.
But so when you go out, you don't see these details. I mean, in a concert hall, it's an instrument.
It's not-
then the whole connection is through sound.
Yes, it is. It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand what you mean when you say, "I look at it, I'm still perfectionist. This corner is a little like that," and you can see these
Yes.
little things. To me, they don't appear to be
No,
imperfections
it's not.
at all.
It's not possible to see them because it took me some. Because this was broader, the wood.
The wood was broader.
I put it here, or I can put it here. And
Like you could have left that branch point out of the whole back.
But then I wouldn't have this wonderful piece here in it, because here it's so.
That's funny. Now, when you put it under the light, I see these other lines. That's really funny. I now
This
I
one,
see
yes.
on the maple. I see these also the horizontal lines.
Yes.
From this other angle that I didn't see them before.
Yeah, that's the rings.
Those are the rings.
These are also the rings here.
Those are the rings, slightly wider, but again, this texture is something else.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But at the end, and then we pick up the instrument, then we look at these things, but not everybody. Like I bought a car, and it didn't even occur to me to open the front, the trunk of the car to look in the engine, and it's like I asked a friend of mine, so it didn't occur to me because I'm just going to drive it. Yeah. But some people are just looking at those details. But when you play one, you don't really see the instrument. Like when I play I don't look at the instrument that way from the angle. I cannot. The back I never see unless I am not playing and holding it in my hand. Then it becomes something else. Exactly, you don't see those things as a player most of the time.
And it's not so important for you neither, because
at all. No.
Maybe you like to look at it if it's beautiful. But
if it's beautiful, you like to look at it. But again, it's in your hands when you're working as a professional. You might be holding that instrument 10 hours daily, maybe in your hand, playing or standing or waiting. But it's in your hand, and you don't typically look at it because there's something else to concentrate: the music, the notes, the rehearsal, whatever. And what matters then is what the instrument sounds like, and that's how I select. Like I listen to it. Then again, somebody has to listen from a distance to say, okay, it projects or doesn't project. Yeah. And the balance between different strings, it's beautiful on the E string, and the violin is a soprano instrument, so the E string has to be not just loud, but has to be also beautiful. Yeah. Just like a soprano. Yes. But then again, the G string is this, it has to have a deep sound, but also needs to project. Yeah. So that balance between the strings is also very important. Yeah. And you can play with these things, this balance, by adjusting the sound post.
And now in this, but in this moment, I have this. This point is very important because I make a little bit the G string a little bit higher already now in the
neck.
Yeah, because then it has a little bit more tension in the end.
Okay.
If I put the G string on, And this is not much, maybe it's half millimeter here higher than on the G string than on the E string.
G string is the thickest string of the violin, and the E string is the thinnest. Typically E strings are like steel strings, but the G string will be thicker, and then we'll have some windings on it, Teflon, gold, and all kinds of things. But G string speaks not as bright as the E string, for example.
Yeah.
So you're saying for the G string to speak more, to project more, you even like made the neck, part of the neck where the G string will be placed on, slightly higher, half a millimeter higher than the rest.
Yeah.
And that will also be the same thing with the fingerboard, obviously.
Yeah, that's it. So the bridge is on the high side, on the treble side, a little bit lower. And it is, to play, it is comfortable, but this is not the real reason, but it sounds better. This is good for the sound of both the deep and the high strings, in my experience.
Okay, but that kind of experience I don't have. I just play and like, okay, the A string is not responding to, because I change instruments very quickly. Yeah, that's, I guess it's an advantage, but like I played on your violin probably 4 or 5 days before the concerto, so that's
amazing.
That's a very short time.
Yes.
And even before that, I actually was playing not on my violin, but 2-3 other violins that I tried.
Yes.
I went to rehearsals with it, and then eventually picked up yours. It's such a personal thing, the distances for your fingers, the intonation, the neck, the instrument. But obviously I don't play on an instrument that I find that feels very strange to me. It has to be similar to earlier instruments that I played than it is. Yeah. It's a faster adjustment for me. So this is great. I would like to hear this instrument done, and then and then she can play it. I can even maybe play it, and she can listen to it.
It will be great if you would play it.
Yeah, happily, always.
Yes.
I'm always happy to play different instruments and help out if I can. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, of course.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Well, Veronika, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was fun conversation.
Yes, well, thank you very much for visiting us.
Always. I will always come back. We will talk about Mittenwald.
Yes.
Okay. This violin will be finished in a few weeks maybe.
Yes.
And then will be played. So this piece of wood is becoming a living thing, let's call it. Because it certainly will live, probably, and most likely much longer than we will.
Yes, that's true.
So, thank you very much everybody for joining me at today's talk. We talked about violin making, but also its other typically untalked about aspects from the points of a player like me and a violin maker like Veronika. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Thank you for joining me today at another Open Windows podcast of Hit the Road Cultural Journeys. Hit the Road is an artistic and educational project that has evolved and been developed in the last 30 years artistically to promote solo violin works that are rarely or never performed, also to educate audiences about different aspects of Western classical music, and we value your support. Please consider supporting Hit the Road Cultural Journeys and become a valued member of Hit the Road Inner Circle. Visit our page at patreon.com, type HitTheRoad, and watch our introductory video. You can support this project then by choosing a membership level and with your small monthly contributions. Hit the Road needs you. Until next time, all the best.